I'd like to welcome everybody to today's presentation of Integrative Behavioral Health. I'm your host, Dr. Dawn Elise Snipes, and today we are talking about nutrition. The goal is to help you understand how nutrition is important to helping you be a happier, healthier you. This is part of the limited 6-week series for becoming a happier, healthier you. What's the connection between nutrition and mental health? Well, if you've been around this channel for a while, this is probably old hat to you, but I will go through it for people who are just now tuning in. Physically, when we have adequate nutrition, guess what? We have adequate energy. We also have the building blocks we need to make the hormones and the neurotransmitters that are necessary for mood and immunity and inflammation control. There are a lot of important things that nutrition does for us, and good nutrition, like eating foods that have a low glycemic index and that are high in antioxidants, are really important. It's also important to remember that a lot of our hormones and neurotransmitters, if not all of them, no, a lot of them, are made from amino acids, which are basically proteins. And so it is important to make sure that we are getting enough protein. Now, there are a lot of videos on the YouTube channel about in-depth strategies for improving nutrition. Today, we're really hitting the highlights here. So if you're interested in learning more about, okay, which foods do I specifically need to eat in order to make sure that I'm getting a balanced diet, you can check out some of those videos. And the link is in the chat window. So you can take a look at that, or you can just search the channel for nutrition. Affectively, well, when we have the building blocks to make the neurotransmitters that we need to feel happy and healthy, we're going to probably feel happier. We're going to be able to feel more relaxed. When we have the nutrients we need to combat inflammation, then we also are probably going to feel happier and more relaxed. Cognitively, we know that certain nutrients, including omega-3s, are helpful for improving cognitive functioning. When you are happier, healthier, sleeping better, in a better mood, able to think more clearly, guess what? It improves your environment. You tend to attract more positive energy. You tend to notice more positive things. Now, they may have been there all along, but when you're in a better mood, you tend to notice them more, which by noticing them more puts you in an even better mood. Remember, with integrative behavioral health, anytime you make a positive change, it's likely going to impact the other areas positively. And as those things are improved, that is going to feed in on itself and contribute to a cascade of positive improvements. Interpersonally or relationally, again, when you're happy, healthy, thinking clearly, able to make decisions, have more energy, you're probably going to have more energy to devote to your relationships, to nurturing those relationships. So they are there and they are a resource for you when you need them. What can we do? Now, remember, this is just a really high-level overview. So for more in-depth information, you're going to have to look at some of the other videos. But let's start with eating colorfully. Remember, colorful foods are high in antioxidants. Free radicals are byproducts of what happens in our body. And when free radicals build up, it causes oxidative stress. Oxidative stress contributes to inflammation, which contributes to pain and depression and anxiety and premature aging, as well as, in some cases, cancer. So, colorful foods are really helpful for a lot of things. Your red fruits and vegetables like tomatoes, strawberries, raisins, raspberries, and red beans, so anything that's red, tend to be packed with vitamin C, vitamin A, potassium, antioxidants. A lot of them help reduce cholesterol because they're higher in fiber and improve cardiovascular health. So score for the red. Yellow and orange fruits and vegetables, including carrots, peaches, squash, pineapple, are also loaded with vitamins A and C, potassium, and antioxidants, and help boost the immune system and enhance vision. You know how they always say you never see a rabbit wearing glasses. Well, obviously that doesn't make a lot of sense because they're not going to go to an optometrist, but you get the point. Your red and yellow fruits and vegetables are helpful for vision, but also immune system. Anything that bolsters your immune system is likely also going to reduce inflammation. Remember, systemic inflammation is associated with anxiety and depression. So if we can reduce that systemic inflammation, we help downregulate the HPA axis and we help upregulate, if you will, our mood. White foods. Yes, white foods are good for you too, especially your things like mushrooms and onions and garlic are good for the heart and also can help control cholesterol levels. Green foods. Now, a lot of people shiver when they hear green foods because the only thing they think of are like broccoli and spinach. But there are a lot of really awesome, yummy green foods, and even really awesome, yummy green foods you can have at breakfast. And that is where a lot of people that I work with, they get kind of stuck because I encourage you to have 3 colors on your plate at every meal. And they're like, well, what kind of green food can I eat for breakfast? Well, avocados and kiwi, green grapes, those are 3. And honeydew melon is kind of in that green category. So there are 4 things right there that are green vegetable foods or green fruit foods that you can have for breakfast. Some people are willing to add spinach, for example, to their egg sandwich in the morning. Sure, if that makes you happy, great. And then obviously your green leafy vegetables like spinach and kale and your broccoli and your other cruciferous vegetables. Most of those fall in the green category. Now, you do have red cabbage. That's an outlier. Red cabbage is really, really good for you, super high in antioxidants, but you get where I'm going with this. Green vegetables tend to have the highest concentration of antioxidants and fiber and are high in potassium and vitamin K, which aids in blood clotting, maintenance of vision again, and strong bones and teeth. And some research has also indicated that green vegetables, the chlorophyll from the green vegetables is also helpful at clearing out toxins. So try to get some green in there. Blue and purple foods include purple grapes, blueberries, blackberries, black rice, and eggplant. Now, I keep saying black here, but if you've ever cooked black rice, you know that it ends up, having a real dark purple juice to it when you cook it, or if you cook it with anything else, it all turns kind of purpley. Black rice is really yummy. It has a really strong nutty flavor, super high in antioxidants. So if you like rice, that's an option. I love having black rice in the morning instead of oatmeal, but that's me. Eggplant is also a purple food that you can eat. Your blue and purple foods boost urinary tract health. So that's good for your urinary tract and your kidneys. Remember, your kidneys filter out toxins, so we want to keep the kidneys healthy. And it also helps with memory function and the antioxidants, again, clear out that oxidative stress and promote healthy aging. Brown foods are high in iron and B vitamins, which aid in energy regulation, immunity again, and improving cardiovascular health. Think of your brown foods like seeds, legumes, and whole grains. Now, legumes, think lentils. That's the one that most people are most familiar with. Most people, if they take some time, it does take a little bit of thinking, can figure out menus that have 3 colors on their plate at every meal. This can be really fun to do with kids as well, to encourage them to eat colorfully. There are a lot of recipe books out there that encourage children to get involved with preparing their own food, and you can do food art, which can be colorful. And even if you're not a kid, it's really rewarding sometimes. I can't draw, I'm not super creative, but I do love creating a plate that is colorful and beautiful because it has so much dimension to it. So consider cooking as an art project, maybe. In general, Let's talk about some basics. Protein. Protein is found in most everything to a certain extent. Vegetables have a little bit of protein. Meat is almost exclusively protein and fat. So it's important to know where you're getting your protein from. In terms of how much we need, the average person that has perfectly functioning kidneys and doesn't work out a whole bunch, not a power lifter or something, needs about 0.6 grams of protein per pound of body weight per day. Now, this is a very rough average. Depending on a child that's growing may need more. Somebody with kidney disease is probably going to need less. It's important to consult a registered dietitian or your physician to determine exactly how much protein you need. This is a rough, real generalized estimate. Now, not everybody is down with eating meat or animal products. However, your vegetarian and your vegan proteins are often what we call incomplete proteins. That means they don't have all of the amino acids. Your body can produce a lot of amino acids on its own, but there are certain amino acids that are called essential amino acids that your body cannot produce on its own. The following vegan proteins do have your essential aminos in it, so it makes it a complete protein. The first one is buckwheat, and that's one I have to say I haven't ever tried, but it allegedly has kind of a nutty flavor. Chia seeds. Now, I do love my chia seeds. Chia seeds can absorb, I think, up to 11 times their weight in water. They form sort of a gelatinous texture when they are added to fluid. A lot of people will use chia seeds to make a pudding alternative, so that's great. Some people will use it as like a porridge in the morning. You can also add chia seeds to recipes as an egg substitute. Now, obviously, you have to do that with some fluid in it to get that gelatinous consistency going. But there are a lot of different ways to eat chia seeds. Chia is not only a complete protein, but it is super high in omega-3 fatty acids. So it is one of the best foods and super high in fiber. One of the best foods you can consider adding to your diet. The caveat here with chia is that it can be, because it is high in omega-3 fatty acids, it is a little bit high in calories. So you want to be aware, be conscious of how much you're eating. But obviously, because of its high fiber content, you're not going to want to eat, cups and cups and cups of it for obvious reasons. So chia, big fan, obviously. Quinoa, also another big fan. This can be a rice substitute. It has a little bit of a nutty flavor. Some people will also use it as an oatmeal substitute. Oatmeal's great. It has its benefits, but it is not a complete protein. Amaranth is another substitute that you can also use, complete proteins, as is our tofu or edamame, which are both soy products. And finally, nutritional yeast. Now, this isn't baker's yeast. You don't want to go out and get the stuff that they put in bread to make it rise, because that's activated yeast and that can cause all kinds of other issues. Nutritional yeast is deactivated before it's sold, so it's not going to reproduce in your intestinal system, but it is high in essential aminos. It is a complete source of protein. Some people will use it as a seasoning on some of their foods instead of butter, for example. Now, carbohydrates. Our three macros are proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. Remember, proteins, the average person needs about 0.6 grams per pound of body weight per day. Carbohydrates are needed for energy and glycogen stores. Now, some people want to go on a super low carbohydrate diet. That is, up to them. It should be done in concert with their physician. Some people cannot tolerate the super low carbohydrates because their body does not adapt well to it. And without getting into all of the chemistry, Some people's bodies can't produce the neurotransmitters that they need on a super low carbohydrate diet, and they end up feeling really poorly. So it's important to know what your body needs and be mindful when you change your diet, whether it's under the supervision of a physician or you're just randomly doing it. You need to be mindful of how you feel. The average person needs to eat about 100 to 300 grams of carbohydrates per day. Now, that's a pretty broad range there. 100 is on the really low end of the spectrum for people who want to eat a low carbohydrate diet but need a little bit of carbs in there. And 300 grams is more towards the end of people who are not shy about carbohydrates and are bigger. They're eating like a 2,000 calorie a day diet. So knowing what level of carbohydrates you want is helpful. Counting carbohydrates, counting all these different macros can get overwhelming. So I'm going to give you some short tricks that you can use if you are trying to eat healthfully, you're eating a low glycemic diet, then you're probably going to stay within your carbohydrate range. Carbohydrates are found within most everything that's not meat. You'll find carbs in eggs. You'll find carbs in dairy products. You'll find carbs in vegetables and grains. So it's important to recognize that you are getting carbohydrates from a variety of different sources. Complex carbohydrates are found in unprocessed or minimally processed plant foods like long grain brown rice or black rice versus your instant white rice. Any of your grains that cook up super fast have probably been processed to a certain extent. Complex carbohydrates tend to have a lower glycemic index because they have more fiber in them. It permits your body to digest them, and it doesn't make your blood sugar spike the same way things like white bread or table sugar do. And again, it has more fiber, which is going to help keep you full longer. And fiber is a great resource for kind of scrubbing out the piping as it goes through and helping to absorb toxins and waste and byproducts. So fiber is your friend. Remember, antioxidants are found in your carbohydrate-based foods like your fruits and vegetables. So most people who are eating a colorful diet are going to have some carbohydrates. You have lower calorie carbohydrates like red cabbage versus strawberries. Strawberries have a much higher glycemic index and are denser in calories than red cabbage, but not everybody is down with red cabbage. So make your choices informed. Fat is our third macronutrient, and it is necessary for bodily processes and the absorption of fat-soluble vitamins. You want to have a little bit of fat in your diet every day. I remember back in the 80s, we went through this whole period where fat was this evil molecule, and nobody wanted to eat fat. They wanted to eat like a low fat, no fat diet. Well, what did they replace the fat with? Processed carbohydrates. So it's more important to exercise moderation than to try to cut things out completely. Fat is a dense form of energy. It has 9 calories, which is a measure of energy, 9 calories per gram. Carbohydrates, in comparison, have 4 calories per gram. So fat is really dense energy. So a little bit goes a long way. When our HPA axis is activated, the first line of energy it releases is our glycogen stores, our sugar stores, if you will. That provides us with the fast burst of energy. Then it releases fatty acids into the bloodstream, and that is for our endurance. If you're running from a tiger and you just keep on running and running and running. So fat does serve as a source of energy, but before we can get to that, we've got to burn through our glycogen stores. When you're looking at fats, not all fats are created equal. We have saturated fats and monounsaturated fats and trans fats. And okay, you want to stay away from trans fats. Ideally, you can try to increase your omega-3s by the fats that you use, by the oils that you use. Canola, hemp seed oil, and walnut oils tend to have some of the best omega-3 to omega-6 ratios. And let me see if I can pull this up real quick. So you'll get more bang for your buck that way, if you will. Extra virgin olive oil is also a good choice because although it doesn't have the best omega-3 to omega-6 ratio, it is really high in omega-9s. So I don't know if y'all can see this because it's really small type. But this website, it is here. I'll put it in the chat window. Control V. This website goes through a bunch of different types of oils that are available to you. And it identifies the omega-6 to omega-3 ratio. Remember, we want approximately 4 omega-6s to every omega-3 overall in our diet. But the American diet is way too heavy on omega-6s. The American diet tends to be more 24 to 1 instead of 4 to 1. So if you can increase your omega-3s any way you can, then great. So this talks about the different options that are out there. You see sesame oil, for example, has 138 omega-6s for every 1 omega-3. So that's not a really good choice. But he also talks here about your smoke point. So some oils are going to be better for baking. Some are going to be better for low temperature stovetop cooking. You can get way deep into that if you want. But basically, think canola, hemp seed, or walnut oil, or extra virgin olive oil. Those tend to be the healthiest. Water. It's not a macro, but it is essential. Our body is made up in large part of water. The chemical processes that take place in our body require water. When we become dehydrated, even 1%, our cognition and our problem-solving abilities start to go down. And you're not even thirsty. You're not even feeling parched at 1%. So drinking enough water is essential. And a lot of people think, well, hey, I drink my 64 ounces of water a day. Well, that's awesome. Okay. That is great if you know you drink your 64 ounces of water. But if you also drink caffeinated or alcoholic drinks, both of those are diuretics, you're going to need to up your water intake. So 64 ounces throughout the day is our minimum. That's our baseline. And then if you drink 8 ounces of caffeinated beverage, then you ideally want to counter it with an additional 8 ounces of water. That was one tip that one of my friends who is a dietitian gave me, that you typically want to do 1-to-1 with caffeinated or alcoholic drinks in addition to your base 64 ounces. So that can be a deterrent for drinking too much caffeine because you end up starting to feel really waterlogged really fast. Water also helps clear out toxins. So think about water kind of like a sponge. And if you are trying to clean up a spill with a sopping wet sponge, it's not going to do much. So you do really want to try to drink clear water. Carry a water bottle with you. If you have one handy, you're more likely to sip on it. Use a water filter. If you don't like the taste of your water, you can get water filters that help take out some of the impurities. In our area, we have a lot of chlorine in our water. Like it smells like a pool. No joke. We have a lot of chlorine in our water. So you can either put it in an open container and leave it out for 24 hours or more for the chlorine to dissipate, just like you would for a goldfish. Or you can get one of those inexpensive little bubblers that you would put in a fish tank and a little bubbling stone, and you can put that in your water, and that increases the rate at which the chlorine dissipates. Usually about 30 minutes significantly removes the smell and the taste of chlorine. Now remember, that's not removing any of the other impurities. That's just helping to get rid of the chlorine taste. You can also infuse water with fruit or a splash of lemon. Now, if you've seen the infusion pictures, you put the fruit in a container thingy that has openings in it, so the flavor gets out, but a lot of the fiber and everything else stays in the container. So you're just getting a little bit of flavor into the water. Or you can put a splash of lemon. This is a way to make it taste a little bit better without completely saturating the sponge, so to speak. Fiber. I already talked about fiber a couple of times. You know I'm a big fan. It's found in fruits, vegetables, and whole grains. If you do not get enough fiber, you may consider adding a fiber supplement like psyllium husks or something else to your porridge in the morning or your smoothie or something else like that. Use good common sense. Talk to your doctor. Sometimes if you're taking certain medications, they advise you not to take those medications within 2 hours of taking a fiber supplement or having a high fiber meal. So consider that. There are also fiber cereals that are out there if you're interested in increasing your fiber intake. Like water, fiber helps absorb and clear out toxins and keeps you feeling fuller longer. So feeling full is good. Reducing your blood sugar spikes is good. That will help with your mood. That will help regulate that HPA axis. And clearing out the sludge, clearing out the toxins is also going to help you feel clearer. And it's going to enable your body to work more efficiently. Think like your car. You want to use pure gasoline. You don't want to use gasoline with a lot of impurities in it because it makes your car work less efficiently. In terms of insulin sensitivity, we've talked about that a lot. A lot of people have insulin resistance because they graze a lot of the time, or they may have developed diabetes. They may have diabetes type 1. There's a lot of reasons people develop insulin sensitivity. Stress and chronic eating or grazing tend to be two preventable reasons for the development of insulin sensitivity and reversible. It's important in order to help improve your insulin sensitivity or reduce your insulin resistance, however you want to talk about it. Reduce your blood sugar spikes by eating complex carbs with a fat and a protein. An apple with peanut butter or an apple with a cheese slice. You know, you have the carbohydrates from the apple, but you also have fiber in the apple, and then the peanut butter or the cheese adds a little bit of protein and fat to go along with it, which slows the absorption of the sugars into the body. Give your body a break from insulin by not grazing all day and all night. Insulin sensitivity or insulin resistance, let's go back there, happens when your body is just perpetually exposed to insulin, and eventually it starts ignoring it. Let's think about it that way. It starts ignoring it because it's always there. It's always trying to get the tissues to activate, so the tissues become resistant to it. If you go back to eating, your meals, a couple of meals a day, and not grazing in between, and then having a period in the evening where you're not eating at all, that can give your body a break. You can consider intermittent fasting. If you have diabetes or other blood sugar regulation problems, it's obviously, or you're pregnant or have any other health conditions, it's obviously important to consult with your physician before trying intermittent fasting. Now, intermittent fasting, some people go to extremes and they try to fast for 20 hours a day and only eat during a 4-hour window. They found that your insulin resistance doesn't require that level of intensity. A lot of times people who just close their eating window to somewhere between 10 and 12 hours a day, get many of the same benefits. And so you can eat your 3 meals a day. You don't snack in between, but then you quit eating at, say, 5 p.m. or 6 p.m., and then don't start eating again in the morning. Don't have breakfast until 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. And that's your intermittent fast. Most people can get by with that. The final thing that you can do to improve your mental health is address obesity. And I'm not talking about obesity as a self-esteem thing. I'm talking about obesity from a physiological perspective. When we have too much adipose tissue, too much fat tissue, it increases inflammation systemically, which can subsequently increase depression and anxiety and autoimmune symptoms. Inflammation goes up. Autoimmune issues are going to likely go up. HPA axis activation is going to increase. So if we reduce inflammation, that's good. Obesity tends to increase the amount of estrogen floating through our system, which can also throw a lot of our other neurotransmitters out of whack and contribute to mood issues. As obesity goes up and estrogen levels go up, it also can increase cancer risk. As inflammation goes up, oxidative stress goes up, which also increases cancer risk. So obesity is, from a physiological perspective, something that can contribute to mood disorders. Some body fat is essential for proper functioning of the body as well as the creation of gonadal hormones. Gonadal hormones are made from cholesterol. You don't want to be zero body fat. If you have a lot of muscle mass, it's important to get a body fat assessment and not just go by the body mass index, because body mass index is, very general and is not, it can be very skewed for people who have, a lot of muscle. 10 tips to address obesity. And again, this is a high-level overview, not, everything that you can possibly do. Use a salad plate. When you use a smaller plate, it tricks your brain into thinking you're eating more. Remember, your unstretched out stomach is only the size of your closed fist. So we generally don't need a plate that's this big. Eat colorfully. When you have multiple colors on your plate, research has actually shown that it tricks your brain to think into thinking that you're eating more. People who ate a plate of, all white or all brown food tended to eat a lot more calories than people who ate a plate that had multiple colors on it. Eating colorfully also increases fiber. And remember, that helps you feel fuller and helps wipe out some of those toxins to improve your cognition and everything else. Another trick that I have been taught is take what you want. And a lot of times our eyes are way bigger than our gut. Take what you want and then put half back. Then after you eat that, if you're still hungry, you have a little bit more wiggle room to go back for a second helping. But most people find that they're satiated with the half that they end up eating. Use that fist rule, remembering that this is how big your unstretched out stomach is. So try to stay with a small portion size at first. It takes your body about 20 minutes to register that it's full. So if you're gulping down your food, then you're not going to feel hungry as soon as you finish. It's important to eat slowly and mindfully. Drink water, especially before your meal. That can help you feel a little bit more satiated. A lot of times people confuse thirsty with hungry. So that is one tip. Now, if you have had bariatric surgery, that's not going to work for you. But if you haven't had stomach bypass surgery, then that is an option. Likewise, consider starting your meal with a broth, a bone broth or a bouillon or a clear soup of some sort. It can give you a little bit of taste. It starts registering to your body that, hey, I'm getting some food. So it starts recognizing that you're full. but it tends to have a lot fewer calories. So by the time you get to your meal, you're not ravenous and you tend to eat more slowly and more mindfully. Which takes us to eat slowly and mindfully. So your brain recognizes not only do you give it time to get the signal that you've eaten enough, but you also, when you savor the different flavors and textures in what you're eating, it adds to the message to your brain that, hey, I'm getting a lot of really good food here. Only eat when you're sitting at the table with food on a plate. Don't eat out of the bag. And don't eat while you're walking around. Don't eat while you're sitting on the couch. I know a lot of you are going, oh my gosh. One of the best ways to stop mindless eating and stop emotional and habit eating is to force yourself to only eat when you're sitting at the table with food on a proper plate. And that is a huge change for a lot of us. I will admit I do not follow that all the time either. I'm trying to get better. Clear the counters. Research again has shown that if you have food on the counters, you're more likely to grab it and snack on it. Out of sight is out of mind. So put the food away, put it in a pantry. If you can't put everything in a pantry, if you've got bread, for example, that you usually keep on the counter, get a bread box to put it in so you're not looking at it. They found that people can reduce their daily caloric consumption by up to 20% if they just clear the counters. Going along with that, after your meals, clean the plates, clean the dishes. A lot of us do not want to dirty a kitchen once we get it clean. So it prevents us from going in, especially if you're adhering to the one before it, where you've got to eat with food on a plate. You start thinking to yourself, well, do I really want to do dishes again? And the answer is no, I'm not doing that. So you decide that you're really not that hungry. This helps us start being more mindful and break that habit of just mindlessly eating. Finally, explore lower calorie alternatives. If there are certain things that you really, really love, look and see if there are lower calorie alternatives out there. You notice I didn't say lower fat. Lower calorie, because sometimes the low fat has just as many calories to it. But the things that you do like, and this again comes from my friend who was the dietitian, consider, unless it is not something that you can eat because of your health. Obviously, if you have health reasons, then that's something different. But if there is no health reason why you shouldn't eat something, consider not banning any food from your availability, but eat it in moderation. For example, I love chocolate. I love chocolate. But I don't keep chocolate in the house because that's just too tempting for me. But when I do want chocolate, I can go out, I can get a dessert when I go to a restaurant, or I can go to the store and get a pack of single serving size of M&Ms. That works better for me, but I don't prevent myself. I don't abstain completely from it because that often makes me think about it more and can set me up for a binge. So, being mindful of what you're eating, keep it in moderation, things that you know that you tend to overdo it on, consider not keeping those in the house. Doesn't mean you have to swear them off completely, but if they're not around when you're feeling more emotional, more bored, more vulnerable, then you are probably less likely to overindulge. Nutrition is essential to provide the building blocks you need for tissue repair, for health, for clearing out all of those free radicals, for reducing oxidative stress, and for making the hormones and neurotransmitters we need to feel healthy. If we don't eat enough, our brain actually registers that as a famine and may reduce our base metabolism, which we really didn't talk about a lot. But it is important to recognize that eating is important. We do need to provide our body with food. Now, the occasional, not eating when you've got the flu or if you're fasting for religious reasons, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is going days and days and days where you're not eating nearly enough. Your body is going to try to protect itself and conserve energy, so you will likely see a reduction in your base metabolism. And make sure that your nutrition is colorful in order to provide antioxidants, which help reduce inflammation and clear out that oxidative stress, both of which will help reduce or downregulate your HPA axis, so you're not in a fight or flight sort of mode and your mood can improve. That is all I have for the summary or for the overview of nutrition for mental health, but I'm hoping you got a tip or two that you can try using to start identifying nutrition as a tool you can use to create a happier and healthier you. In terms of specific dietary requirements, since I am not a registered dietitian or a medical doctor, it is important, and even if I were, since I don't know each of you individually, it's important to consult with your dietitian or your medical provider to identify the best nutritional program for you. Everybody's going to have their own unique little needs. So it's important to make sure that you are doing what you can. For general information, you can go to health.gov. I believe they have a lot of information on healthy nutrition. And if you have diabetes, you can go to the Diabetes Foundation to find out more about healthy eating with diabetes. Alrighty, everybody, have a great day. I will see you same time, same station tomorrow, and we will be talking about affective tips and tools for a happier, healthier you.